Powered by Riverside FM.
Here's a bold take for you, and I'm ready to make it. Currently constructed, the way the teams are today in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings are going to win the NFC North. And I'm not saying that just because, obviously, I'm a fan of the Purple Man. I'm just looking at it where I don't see where the Minnesota Vikings could fail in this one. And I'm just talking about personnel that is currently constructed. Obviously, injuries can happen in training camp. Knock on wood, they won't happen for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, there could be additions to the team. Obviously, there's going to be players that are going to be released before that September where we play game one. But as it is right now, if you made me choose who's going to win the NFC North right now, man, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. And here's why. Everybody is talking about how tough the NFC North is. And the NFC North is daunting, man. The NFC North is tough. But if you look at each team outside of the Vikings, you could argue that everybody is kind of taking a step back. You look at the Detroit Lions, man, everybody is underestimating the loss of their coordinators, dude. You just can't lose two coordinators where their head coach delegated to them, hey, you've got the O, you've got the D, now both of those guys are gone. It is not about X's and O's, and it's not necessarily about plays. UP Nation, it is about the personalities on the sideline, and what I mean by that is personality is important when you get into situational stuff and how plays are called. That's going to be completely different for the Detroit Lions. You guys feel what I'm saying about that? So all these Detroit Lions fans that don't think that that is a big deal, that Ben Johnson is gone and Aaron Glenn is gone, I mean, you're crazy, man. Ben Johnson was the architect of that offense. That was, in my opinion, the biggest reason why Jared Goff looked like a Pro Bowler last year. You take that out of the mix, man, you're in trouble. Aaron Glenn, gone to the Jets, defensive acumen and leadership. That's going to be huge. Jared Goff recently got paid, so there's not going to be that intestinal fortitude really from him to look top-notch. You know what happens when players get paid. So, man, I just expect the Detroit Lions to regress. Even if it's just a little bit. They won't be the same Detroit Lions team that they have been for the past 2 years. Here's a question I want you to think about. When you look at all of the team's offensive lines, I would put the Minnesota Vikings offensive line up there. The Chicago Bears have brought in some pieces for their offensive line. The Detroit Lions, although they just lost a center that retired, their offensive line is still going to be pretty decent. So in my opinion, the worst offensive line in the division has to be the Green Bay Packers. I mean, man, they are reshuffling everything, especially since they lost Bakhtiari. So now they're reshuffling their offensive line, and that puts a lot of pressure, and that puts a lot of weight on the Green Bay Packers and Aaron. Now, I was about to say Aaron Jones and Jordan Love. That puts a lot of pressure on Jordan Love, man. Jordan Love, the $55 million quarterback, a lot of pressure on him. Is he ready for that? They drafted two wide receivers in the draft because their wide receivers have been suspect in terms of playmaking. The one thing that I give the Green Bay Packers a lot of credit for is that they've built a pretty nice running game. But again, how good is that offensive line? That offensive line reshuffling is going to hurt them a little bit more than what people are saying. Then you look at the Green Bay Packers, man. Their defensive inconsistently, their defensive inconsistency seems to hurt them every year at times. Like, they just don't have that consistency, man. They really haven't been a really good, reliable defensive team since Mike Pettin left. and came to the Minnesota Vikings. They have a new defensive coordinator, but he's unproven in the NFL. So the Green Bay Packers are showing cracks. They're showing cracks in a lot of different places and a lot of areas where they have questions. Those questions are going to have to be answered. They've got some cracks in the locker room as well, fellas. Ladies, they've got some cracks in the locker room as well. So I don't see how anyone can look at the Green Bay Packers and say, hey, man, the Green Bay Packers are going to win the division. I would choose the Minnesota Vikings over the Green Bay Packers. So we just talked about the Lions and the Green Bay Packers and why I think the Minnesota Vikings are just a better team than both of those teams. Now you get to the Chicago Bears. Now, I do think the Chicago Bears have improved. They've made some moves during the offseason that are credible moves, man, but they got a young quarterback still, playmaking quarterback, young quarterback, and they've got Ben Johnson coming in with a completely new system, and I don't think that the system that Ben Johnson is coming in suits Caleb Williams. So I think that's going to be an up and down roller coaster ride, especially on the offensive end. When you talk about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson trying to mesh, that's going to be interesting to watch. I think that there are going to be some challenges there. New offense coordinator Shane Waldron is installing a fresh new offense. On the surface level of that, that's going to take some time. UP Nation, if everything is great, 100% A+, and let's say Caleb Williams really meshes with Ben Johnson, isn't it going to take some time? Isn't it going to take some time for everybody to get on the same page with a new offense? That is why I think the Minnesota Vikings, especially in that first game, will get them early with J.J. McCarthy. The wide receiver room for the Chicago Bears has improved, but the offensive line, although they've added some pieces to that line, the verdict is still out on that offensive line and what they're going to be like. I give them a little bit of credit on the defense, but how good is their defense? Is their defense top 10? Top 5? Top 3? How good will their defense be? The Vikings, man, are ready to roll in this division. You got coaching stability. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores are back, while the rest of the division is just kind of rebuilding playbooks. Think about that. The stability in the NFL with coaching staffs are rare. The Minnesota Vikings have that. In year 3, you have a defensive reload with the Minnesota Vikings, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, and then plus Hargrave and the boys, Allen and the boys coming in to help fortify some holes for the Minnesota Vikings. That defense is built to confuse really young quarterbacks that haven't seen a whole lot of everything. And that's where Brian Flores' defense really goes to town. Now you got balanced depth roster. You got a quarterback that can make every throw in the playbook. Couldn't say that last year with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had a big arm, but he couldn't make every single throw in the playbook. You've got that with J.J. McCarthy. Justin Jefferson is healthy. The only thing I worry about is Addison's suspension. But when you put everything out on the table, UP Nation, the Minnesota Vikings should be favored, in my opinion, to win the NFC North. Let's think about all the things that we just laid out on the table. Detroit Lions, new playbook. Chicago Bears, new playbook. Green Bay Packers, old playbook, but a lot of inconsistency on that team, and it starts with how good their offensive line will be. Good luck with that, Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love signed that $55 million deal. Although they're not in cap hell right now, it is heading that way. Some of the contracts that they're signing and that big contract at the quarterback position, you better be sure that your quarterback is right, Green Bay Packer fans. But put your thoughts in the comments, man. Are you rolling with the Minnesota Vikings as being the favorite in the NFC North? I am. I'm putting a stamp on it right now. Currently constructed. This thing is fluid, though. This is a fluid thing. We've got to go through mini camp. Knock on wood, we won't have any significant injuries, but I think injuries are going to play a part in that. You know, who knows what the additions will be on this Minnesota Vikings team? Who knows who will make the roster, who will get cut? But as of June right now, I'm rolling with the Minnesota Vikings winning the NFC North. You can book that barring any changes, man. But this thing is fluid, and we'll continue to update it. Just wanted to throw that out there. This has been Unconventional Playbook. Again, take the time to hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Helps keep this thing in the algorithm, and it helps my channel to continue to grow. And I love bringing this Vikings content, this Vikings analysis to you. Skull Nation, Purple Nation, UP Nation, and the Purple Gang. Can't wait to see everyone at Skull Fest. Can't wait to see everyone in training camp. Looking forward to engaging with all the people that take the time to watch Unconventional Playbook. So please hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, UP Nation, we will make sure to see you when we see you. Skull.